Mercedes, I've always been interested in the unusual jobs that actors have before they start working as actors. Now, I've always kind of felt sorry for those people who hand out leaflets on the street. Now, you were briefly doing that, didn't you?
Yes, I handed out a free newspaper on the Upper West Side in the Columbia University area called, I think it was called Wisdom's Child.
And what did that experience, so kind of impression that
It
leave
taught
on
me I
you?
never wanted to do that kind of line of work again. Actually, in Columbia, I was just out of college, and I was living with friends who were doing graduate work at Columbia in the English department and the journalism department. So it was just all students, and it was crazy, and it was in the 70s, and it was kind of fun. It was a great way to just meet kids, handing out these ridiculous leaflets. It wasn't bad. Market research, on phone calling, market research, that kind of thing. What do you think of, this product? That was probably the job I liked least of all in the world. Hell is market research indefinitely.
Now, let's go to an early film role of yours, The Warriors. Now, that was a film that had some problems in that it had some bad publicity about some violence and was pulled from a lot of theaters. Were you bitter about that, and that more people didn't get to see your initial film?
Yeah. I mean, it was a very small role, and it was the first film I ever did. I was terrified doing it. I wasn't that crazy about what I did in it, and then when I saw the level of violence in the film and what the themes of the film were about, it was not something that I felt personally I was ever going to be on a crusade to keep in the movie theaters. Although it's become kind of a cult film, I hear. Every once in a while I get a residual for $1.19 or something from that film, so it's still playing on campuses somewhere.
Now, the breakthrough for you was, of course, Married to the Mob.
Yeah.
But is that true that you had serious reservations about doing that movie, and then when you showed up on the set, you had poison ivy?
All these things are true. I had reservations because I thought it was a very strident character, and I just didn't want to. Well, in a way, I didn't want to do what I've eventually done, just gone out and do one, sort of mad New York woman after another. I think I've honored every area of New York City now, every pocket, I think I've honored every ethnic group that has come through Ellis Island now, and it's time to move on to something else, another hemisphere maybe. But I showed up with poison ivy. I had gotten a perm that made me look like a hairdo walking a woman. I had disappeared for 2 weeks to visit a friend in Tucson. I had gotten involved in a reading that Jonathan mistakenly thought was a full-length play that I was doing at the same time that I was doing the film. And at one point, he did call me and say, "Mercedes, do you really want to do this film?" And I said, "I am having a little problem with my subconscious, but we're going to get it all straightened out by the day I do my first, I shoot." And then I get to the set on time. I'm in makeup on time. I have all my lines. I'm in hair. I wait for 4 hours in my trailer, trying not to wrinkle anything, And I get out and I get on the set. It was a beauty parlor out on Long Island. Right before I went out to do my first scene, I went into the ladies' room and I got locked in the ladies' room. They had to dismantle the door. Sometimes the gods just are having a big joke and they're laughing too hard and there's nothing you can do about it.
Now, I have a technical question to ask about Lost in Yonkers. I know going from a play to the movie version, did that require you to change a lot in your inner gears, in that instead of doing it straight through, you had to do it in bits and pieces?
Well, you do in acting classes from the very beginning in your student days. You will excise a scene from a play, like a scene between Blanche and Stanley in Streetcar, and you will bring 7, 8, 10 minutes of that scene into class, and you will be expected to begin it at the level it should be in the play and rise to the level it's supposed to go to, where you're seeing a full-length version of the play. And it's amazing how easy that is to do, because good material just lifts you right up to the emotional level that it wants to be played at if you concentrate and if you relax. So doing a film is sort of the same way. I mean, you do a lot of, when you've been doing it, acting as long as I have now, you make a lot of unconscious calibrations just off the bat.
Papers in New York are often full of stories of actors, Broadway actors, complaining about how they didn't get the movie version of a play that they were stars in. When they announced that they were going to do a movie version of this, were you worried that you might not get the
Always, always. I originated other people's money, and it was a disappointment not doing that role. It was a disappointment seeing what happened to the play, too. I thought a great deal of its subtlety was lost. Not without me. They changed the play. Without me. When Yonkers came around, then yes, I was a little bit nervous about it, and I did hear some names bandied around, and I thought, oh boy, if this happens, putting on those cement overshoes and jumping off the Brooklyn Bridge. But then Neil, I think, really advocated for me, thank goodness, because you do. When you create a character, you have almost a possession of it that is like a parent and a child. Do not give my child to anyone else, And you can live with it. You have to live with it. It's that disappointment if it doesn't happen, but I was very pleased it did.
And one final question is, we're doing a feature next year for the Academy Awards.
Mm-hmm.
I know everyone's always asking you, like, how does it feel to win an Oscar? The question I have is, one, the tickets. How many tickets does a nominee get? How do they arrive? How do they look like? And how much thought did you put into what you were going to wear for the ceremonies?
You're going for the deep questions. I can see that.
The trivia.
There are very pretty large colored tickets, and they do have your seat number on them, and they're actually very, very pretty tickets. I've saved all of mine. And the other question is the dress. Designers generally will approach you about would you like to wear, but I have had a relationship with Valentino. I mean, a business relationship with Valentino for a couple of years now, and I've loved wearing his clothing. And so usually when these things come up, I just bop on up to his boutique on Madison Avenue in New York and say, darling, what's new this year?